Now, actually, I have this. This is actually for pressing in ball joints, so you can actually use this for ball joints instead of using this. But these things could come in handy in conjunction with this. You know, depending on if you got the right size or not. It's got a lot of different sizes here. See? I mean, sometimes you got to use them in conjunction with something else, but it's got a lot of different sizes here. Sometimes you can use impact sockets, but you got to be careful with this thing because there's a lot of pressure. You know, a lot of people were telling me, you know, don't get the 12 ton, get a 20 ton, get right, but it's heavy. It's heavy to move this thing around. It's like 165 pounds. I'm going to move it under the carport, in the middle of the carport next to the workbench, which is a very heavy duty workbench. And I'm going to spray it down with some fluid film down, especially down in there, so it don't rust. And keep a contractor garbage bag over it so no mildew gets on it or any dew from the, you know, morning. So it'll stay good for a long time. But for the money, I figure it's good to get these things now, because if you don't get them now, I'm a little worried about the inflation with the dollar and the trade deficit with China. I think there's going to be a repeat. I don't know if you remember back in, I think it was 1986, under the Reagan administration, they let the yen float, and we were like 250, 270 yen to the dollar, and it went down to like 120 yen to the dollar. And all the Japanese stuff became very expensive, but then Japanese started using manufacturing in Korea and China to make up for the cost difference, I guess, because of the dollar changing. But there's nowhere else left. You know, there's no other cheap labor out there. So if they let this dollar float against the Chinese money, all this Chinese stuff. Now, I'm not really big on Chinese tools, but some of the stuff is okay. Like wrenches, stuff like that, sockets. If they're made in Taiwan, they're usually good. Taiwan, not made in China, Taiwan. But some of the stuff, if it's a name brand, because I know the big manufacturers switched over to China, sometimes they're very good too. Like Stanley's pretty good stuff, you know. But I figure this is good enough. I'm kind of like doing this to just make sure I got stuff, but I plan to eventually change the trap door on the transmission on a Sportster to an Zippers performance trap door. Also have to put an Andrews main shaft in there because some of the splines of mine is a little messed up. It's still good to go really for a long time if I don't race the hell out of it. And I would have to press in the clutch gear to the trap door. So, you know, if you take it someplace, they'll charge you 15, 20 bucks to press it in. Plus you got to drive there. And I know I'm going to find other uses for this thing. So it's good to have. It's good to have, big time. So I got this. I got a mini mill. Got a transmission jack, engine hoist, engine stand. A lot of, you know, what I want to get is either a lathe or a tool that balances the flywheels on a Harley. Preferably like something that does both, you know. It'd be a good thing to have. But I got the mini mill too. That's a good thing to have. And a drill press and a lot of stuff like that. So I can't really name what I got, but I got such a mix match that it's not really like a professional mechanic, but I have as many tools as a professional mechanic. It's just that they're all mix match brands and stuff. Well, I just picked up an hydraulic press. This is by Vevor, 12 tons. I was gonna get, I was looking at a 6 ton. I was looking at a 20 ton. Decided on this partly because you notice these braces on the legs down there. Usually the 20 tons have that, the 12 tons don't. They usually don't have these braces. They just have them bolted like that. I was going to add those braces if they didn't have it, but this looks like pretty good for the money. I think it was $167 out of Amazon. You know, just like putting together a Lego set. This thing's kind of hard to put in there. I think there's probably a trick to it, but I put the springs on it and I had to expand this over here. So I used a little jack to expand it and I slipped that in there. Now I got some other stuff for it that would work with this because, you know, when you're using this to press in stuff, like one I would need to do this for is like, say I had to change the inner hub on the clutch shell on the Harley. That's one thing. Or on the trap door, they got the I forget what you call that. It's a clutch gear. It's pressed into the trap door in the transmission. You have to have a press. But I have other stuff. I'll show you what it is. Okay, I got it tucked in under the carport. It's actually well away from like the rain. It's actually braced up against this workbench too, so gives it a little more strength. Should work out fine. And I really wouldn't even have to move it out of the way to work with it, and it's not in the way at all because I can still get at anything. My jack stands that are under there, my oil heater for wintertime. It hardly used any room. Hardly used any room at all. So that's what's good about it. Doesn't take up a lot of space. Like I said, it's 6 ton. It's like a tabletop model, and you can get away with it, I guess, but I don't know. We'll find out. But I think this is going to work for me because, like, I have a 140, 110 amp Miller welder, and you know, somebody will say for professional use that's not the best thing in the world, but you know, hey, you know what? It works fine for me, right? It works fine for me. So, anyway, over and out. That's, you know, and I suggest getting stuff like this while you can, because I think the exchange rate is going to change. It seems like it has to. It really has to, because it just can't go on forever like this. And then all this stuff that's made in China that's cheap, it ain't going to be cheap anymore. And I don't know. I don't see us going well into the future, so get it while you can. Because let me say this too on the end. I got stuff I was cleaning out. In my shed, I had a lot of old computer components. I had like, you know, video cards, monitors and stuff, and motherboards, sound cards, and hard drives. Stuff that's way outdated. Some of the stuff was 16-bit. You know, we're 64-bit right now. And like, I had them all in plastic bags and stuff, and it's all junk. It's like, it's garbage. It's like not good for anything now. So, you know, and then I have like tools that are 50, and this stuff is like from like the early 2000s, right? The computer stuff, it's all junk now. None of it's any good. You can't use it for anything because you won't. It's hardware wise, it's not compatible. It's not just software. So, but I got some tools that are 50 years old, like in there, 50 years old, that I got when I was or 51 years old. What I got when I was 17 years old, when I started first working on cars, and they're still good. So if you take care of this, like, I'm going to put a contractor plastic bag over it, and I'm going to spray fluid film all around on the bottom there where it could possibly rust, and you know, it'll all be protected, right? This thing will probably be good 50 years from now. As a matter of fact, I pulled out a jack that I had from when I was 20 years old, a hydraulic jack like this, and that was the jack, the black one I was showing you, that was used to open up the springs. I couldn't get it to work at first, but you know what? That jack is way over 50 years old. My uncle had it. My great uncle had it. I don't know how long it's been around. I mean, it's probably from the early 60s. It's probably like 60 years old or something, or maybe more. I had to take. I put some PB Blaster on it. Got it working again because I haven't used that little one. I usually use the orange one that's a little bit bigger. And I put PB Blaster on it, put a little transmission fluid in it, which you can use for instead of hydraulic jack fluid, which I got some jack fluid someplace, but transmission fluid works, automatic transmission fluid works, and started working again like a charm. So, you know, if you take care of the tools, they'll last. The electronic equipment, it's throwaway inside of 3 or 4 years. So, invest your money wisely. Okay, so I put a contractor trash bag on it, real thick stuff. I don't keep any, you know, it's under this, so I mean, it's not gonna go and get wet. It's way under there. But you know, sometimes the morning dew, and then sprayed it with this down there on the bottom. Some of the springs on the stuff on the top, so it won't rust. Should stay good. Don't plan to use it much, but you know, when you need it, it's like having a chainsaw or something like that. You don't use them much, but when you have them, you need them. It's great to have them.